that they want caviar and they can afford a hot dog, right? And so our job as the agent is challenging because we want them to like us, we want them to hire us, but we also have a responsibility to ourselves, our family, to get their expectations realistic as quickly as possible, right? Yes? Okay. So if we don't accomplish that goal, there's a few outcomes, because let's imagine we meet, we become best friends, right? I think you love me, you're going to use me as your agent, you think I understand what we feel great, you leave, okay? But I know the caviar is what you're wanting, and you can afford a hot dog, and we don't talk about that up front. Ooh, okay. So here is what will happen. I try and send her a property, and she's like, that dumb bitch didn't listen to a word I said. I thought I liked her. Right? Right? That's what you're. So then they say, okay, I'm not going to respond to these crappy hot dogs. I said I wanted caviar, right? Okay. Then, this is the other thing I see agents do. Oh, it's okay. She really likes me. I just need to go reset her expectations. It's like, oh my gosh, you're going out. Now, my clients, I work with a lot of executives. They want caviar, they can afford hot dogs. It doesn't matter what their price range is. It's that they want this, and this is reality, right? But if you try and reset a busy human being's expectations by putting them in the car and showing them properties, do they like you? Oh my gosh, they lose all respect for you. They're super pissed about it. So they're mad that you wasted their time. And a lot of times in an environment where someone needs to make a decision, if you miss your window, they decide not to buy. They decide not to move. They're going to stay put. Am I right? So it's very important that you use the time you have with them wisely. And when they think that you didn't listen to them, that's it. The relationship ends, right? So I have some examples. A big mistake that I hear agents make is that they tell the client, you want caviar and you can afford a hot dog, right? They say what you want doesn't exist. So the process that I'm going to teach you right now is a simple solution that will help you start working with the buyer. How many of you guys meet with them and have a conversation sitting down before you agree to work together? Okay, so a handful of you. Are you open to a recommendation about that? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, you want to sell your first home, EJ, right? Yeah. Okay, listen closely, take notes for a minute. The first thing, this is not rocket science, it's very easy. The first thing you're going to do when you get the opportunity to potentially work with a buyer is suggest that you sit down and talk through their needs and make sure you answer their questions so they understand what to expect. That is what they want from you. But it's all about framing. Because busy people, what do they say? I just want to see the house. Oh, absolutely, I'm so excited to show you the home. Listen, before we go in, we're going to sit down. I'm like, you guys get that I have a strong opinion? Anybody unclear on that? The buyer understands that too. Like, for me to do my job and make sure that you're protected in this process, my job is to make sure you know what to expect next. If we just go wander through this home and I have absolutely no idea what's important to you or what your concerns are, how am I going to support your best interests? It's impossible, right? So you want to meet and you want to get all of the criteria. We actually have a process that we take people through where it's a needs analysis. And if you're not digging into their finances in your initial meeting, you're making a huge mistake. You are asking to be treated like a consultant and an expert, but you're showing up like a sidekick. Right? Because you can't solve problems if you don't understand their finances, right? So step 2, and we have an entire training called Master the Buyer Game on this, is actually walking them through the process and saying to them why right solution. You're getting them comfortable making a commitment to you, okay? So, once you go through that first 2 steps, you're gonna get the signed buyer agreement. How many of you guys get the signed buyer agreement up front? One friend. Everybody else is looking down. They're like, oh, I've got an email to respond to. I'm not gonna look at her now. Okay, so here's the problem. What happened in 2021? What did Builder Studio? Say that louder, please.
Reduced commission.
Okay, so then your value and what you brought to the table was decided by the builder? Huh, that's interesting. So the way that I teach our team to do it, they decide the commission that they want to charge, and they tell the client up front in the presentation, here's how it works. And it's amazing when you do that to buyers and you're a consultant, they say, great. And then you say, now the next step is we're gonna sign this. And they say, thank you. It's really simple. I'm serious. So if you're not doing this, what you're saying is, I don't value my time. If you don't have the confidence to get them to respect your time, and you don't have a process set up to have that happen every single time, I just encourage you guys to dig deeper into this. But the last step of the process is the one. Okay, that's gonna change your lives. So, what I want you to do before you jump into actives is only focus on what's sold in the last 90 days, okay? So you get all their criteria. You don't say, you can't have that, that's caviar, go for the hot dog, none of that. You say, okay, that's helpful, blah, 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 wonderful, tell me why is that important, how will you use that bedroom? You go through all of the need behind the need to get very clear on exactly what matters to the client. You guys with me? Okay. Then you input that into the MLS. Now here is a sneaky thing. You don't put the price. If they said their top of their price range is 700, you leave that out for a moment. I'm gonna explain why. You're gonna pull up the range that what they're looking for costs. Okay, great news. Based on everything that you're wanting with the backyard and the town, based on all of these things, it looks like the range that buyers have paid in the last 90 days is between $1 million and $125. Now I know you shared you were really more comfortable in the $650 price range, so let me ask you, would you like to consider increasing the amount you're paying per month by about $1,500 to afford the properties that you want? Or would you like to reassess your criteria so we can find some options in a price range you're more comfortable with? It's a choice. I'm not saying, do you want to increase your price? No, I'm saying, which do you prefer? And guess what they do every time? They tell me. And most of the time they raise their price. Right? You guys with me? Mm-hmm. Yes? Okay. So why is it that most agents don't start out with sold comps? Because this is an indicator of what the market, where the market is, right? So when you do this, you're using the data. You're using the data instead of, you can't have that, right? So if there's not 3 properties, this is how I train my team. If there's not 3 properties that they would have bought, you use the circle of truth. This is the circle of getting to the hot dog, okay? Because if they want to buy a house, you want to know, are they going to buy or are they not going to buy? Before you spend your weekends and evenings away from your family, right? So these are the 4 things that you can use to reset expectations, right? It's the home type, because if they said, I only want a single family home in North Arlington, and I want I may know if they decided to make an adjustment and have a townhome, it's gonna solve problems, right? But it might not. So here's where your market knowledge is super important. If you don't know what's gonna solve problems, what you wanna do is, when you're in the appointment with the client, you face your laptop to you. Then before you encourage them to change their criteria, quickly check in with the MLS. So as an example, I want a 2-car garage. You may think, all right, they need to ditch the 2-car garage because it's not gonna work out. So you're gonna very carefully approach that conversation, showing them that you listen to the need. Before you get them to take away the 2-car garage, find out if you just take the garage change. Does that make sense? So usually location and price are the biggest 2 factors. So if I'm trying to impact somebody's decision, I'm usually focusing there first. May I make another important recommendation? Are you guys overwhelmed?
Yes.
Are you okay? You're good? You promise? I'm great. Thank you. So before you get into the circle of truth, you should have a part in your presentation where you bring your trusted lender in. There's 4 pieces of data that you need your lender to provide or to understand so they can reflect the pieces that are missing, okay? So typically, if you're dealing with a first-time home buyer, how do they talk about their price range? Monthly payment, whoever said that is right. Yes, gold star. So if they're talking about the monthly payment, what I recommend when my agents call is that, let's imagine I'm calling Jane. I'd say, Jane, Bobby, his income is $150,000. His car payment is $225,000. He has no student loans, no monthly credit card payments, no other alimony, child support, no other debt, and he has $70,000 in the bank. He's comfortable with a payment of $2,500 a month, okay? Then what my lenders do, for my team, they say, great. So based on what you shared with me, this is always first, always what they're qualified for first. So based on what you shared with me, I understand that your comfort zone is $2,500 a month. You are actually qualified for about $4,000 a month, which would put the price at X. Now, I understand based on your comfort zone of $2,500, that would put it at Y. So that's helpful for you to understand when you're looking at lenders. Have 3 minutes, 3, to get on and off that phone conversation, and they know exactly what they need to present, and it's those 4 data points. Because the buyer might say, they might not be a first-time home buyer, they may say, I'm comfortable up to 1.5. Okay, so what's the payment at 1.5? Because I am not good at math. So I needed to have somebody else to support my weakness so that I could move right into this process. Well, if I'm saying, are you comfortable paying $1,500 more, and they can't afford that, am I solving their problem? No! I'm saying, go for the caviar! And they're saying, sure! And then I'm like, by the way, you're not qualified. I'm so sorry about that. Would you like the hot dog? It's not very effective, right? So it's super important how we handle this conversation. So my feeling on this is when you're learning how to answer or get them to answer questions, you want the most likely path to them getting comfortable with a hamburger. They might not go all the way for the hot dog, they might not be able to afford the caviar, but you want them to get very comfortable somewhere in the middle, right? So when I was watching a lot of my agents try and navigate the circle of truth, they were doing what I was calling pecking. Will you reduce your, or will you increase your price range? Would you consider a townhome? What about no garage? And I'm like, oof, I don't like this, because what's happening is you're not reminding the client that you listened to the need behind the need. So if they said they needed a 2-car garage, why? So before you ask them to get rid of that 2-car garage, you focus on how you'll solve the problem. So maybe it's as simple as, I know you shared with me that you have a lot of bikes and strollers for the kids. Would you ever consider having those in a shed out back as opposed to the garage? That is actually a peck. I'm solving one problem, but I'm doing it in a way that I'm acknowledging their need before I ask them to make an adjustment to their criteria. Does that make sense? Now watch this. This is stacking. This is when you're taking, as an example, location and price, and you're asking them to prioritize. You would not do it like this. So, if you had to give on location or price, which would you decide to give up? That's not how you would do it, okay? You would do it something like this. I know that you mentioned being able to walk to yoga is really important to you because that's part of your daily routine, and you love the idea of being in Clarendon. And you also wanted to stay in the price range of under $5,000 a month. So let me ask you, if we were able to find a yoga studio that was closer to Falls Church that you could walk to, would you prefer to change the yoga studio or spend about $1,500 more a month so you can stay right in walking distance?
I'm gonna go spend $1,500.
Okay, great. So you see how that works? That's what happens like 99% of the time. And I watch agents showing all these properties and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna get them comfortable raising their price point. But they don't wanna do that. You don't wanna do that. Just have the conversation right now and solve it, right? Okay. That is the end of the reality chart analysis. Are you guys committed to trying that? Yes. You? It's so easy. However, I've had this conversation with quite a few agents. When we do a check back in, what percentage of the room do you think says, yes, Carrie, I did it?
10.
1.
10.
Who said 1? Yes!
Oh my God.
Why? Why do you think that is?
Yeah. I don't know, but I'll be the 1%.
Love that. I think I'm gonna ask you to commit to a challenge in a moment, so get ready. I think it's fear. I think it's like I'm comfortable doing what I've been doing, so even though I see that this could be valuable, because I'm not quite sure, I'm just gonna keep doing what I was doing. Does that resonate for you guys? Right? It's like we have this comfort zone. I was visiting schools for my son the other day, and there was a 6-year-old girl named Eleanor.